My wife cheated on me with her boss, secretly drained our bank account of $250, $0 to buy a property in her lover's name, and now she's suing me for half of it. Did I lose my mind trusting her? Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to get like this, but here I am, sitting in my living room staring at my phone in shock. The most unexpected thing happened last week. My wife, who I thought was the perfect wife, turned out to be a liar, a cheat, and a thief. Honestly, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. We had a pretty normal life up until about 6 months ago. We got married 3 years ago, both in our early 30s, settled into a decent routine. Was always a bit bitchy, but I thought that was just her personality. She's the type who acts like she's too busy, too important to deal with petty stuff. She'd throw tantrums if I didn't do things her way, but I ignored it because, well, I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. Then, about 6 months ago, things started to change. She became more distant, secretive. She'd leave her phone face down all the time, and if I asked about it, she'd brush me off, say I was paranoid or insecure. She'd get defensive, say I was accusing her of things she hadn't done. But I caught her lying a few times. Small stuff at first, like coming home late without calling or suddenly canceling plans I made for us. I thought maybe she was stressed at work or just busy, but deep down I felt something was off. The real shocker came last week. I was going through some of our bank statements, just trying to organize our finances, and I noticed a huge withdrawal. $250 disappeared in a single transaction. The thing is, we're not rich. We have a decent savings, but nothing close to $250,000. I couldn't believe it. I checked the account again. There was no warning, no alert, just a mysterious transfer to an account I'd never seen before. I looked into it further. The account was in her lover's name, James. She's been having an affair with her boss, a guy named Richard who's twice her age and a real piece of work. I found out she'd been texting him, sneaking around behind my back for months. She'd even started taking secret trips, claiming they were business meetings, but I knew better. I saw the messages, the secret codes, the late-night calls. It all clicked. But what really broke me was the money. That kind of cash doesn't just disappear unless someone's stealing or planning something huge. And she drained our account to buy a property, an apartment in her lover's name, Richard's name. I found the deed online, her name nowhere to be seen, just his. I couldn't believe she'd do something so cold, so calculated. She lied about everything, swore she was loyal, that I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. But I had proof now. Everything was staring me in the face. I confronted her that night. I was furious, trembling with rage and betrayal. I told her I knew about the affair, the money, everything. Her face twisted into this bitchy smirk, like she thought she was untouchable. She lied and lied, said she'd done nothing wrong, that I was jealous, that I was imagining things. She accused me of spying on her, said I was insecure. But I had the evidence. I showed her the bank statements, the deed, her texts. But instead of breaking down, she just got more arrogant, more dismissive. She told me I was overreacting, that I was crazy, that she loved me but she needed more excitement. I felt my world crashing down. I trusted her for so long. I thought we had a good life, that we were building something real. Now I saw that she was planning her escape, her new life with her boss's money and her lover. She'd lied to my face for months, played the innocent wife while secretly screwing her boss and draining our savings. I was stunned, furious, and deeply hurt. I never thought I'd be that guy who gets cheated on and robbed in the same breath. It's like I lost everything in an instant. That's where I am now. Stuck with a mess I don't even know how to clean up. I don't know what's worse, the betrayal or the fact that she's now suing me for half of the property she illegally bought with my money. I feel like I've been played for a fool, and honestly, I don't even know what to do next. I just want to make sense of it all, to figure out how I got here and whether I can ever trust anyone again. After that night of confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept replaying her words, her smirk, her lies. I kept looking at the evidence, her texts, the deed, the bank statements, and it all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I had always thought I knew her, but now I realized I'd been blind. She was a stranger hiding behind the face of my wife. The next day I started digging deeper. I hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to confirm what I already suspected, that she was still seeing James and continuing her affair. Sure enough, the pie came back with photos. She was with him, having lunch, shopping, doing everything she'd. The affair was ongoing and she was still lying to my face. That was the moment. I knew I had to do something drastic. I didn't want to just walk away, though. I wanted justice, or at least to make her pay for what she'd done. I decided to consult a lawyer about the legal options. It was a mess. She drained our savings, bought a property in her lover's name, and now she was suing me for half of it. That's when I found out she'd been secretly planning this. She was trying to spin it like I was the bad guy, claiming I was abusive, controlling, and that I'd cheated first. She even fabricated stories about how I'd hit her, which was a blatant lie. I never laid a hand on her. Her lawyer sent me a letter, demanding half of the property and trying to paint her as the victim. I couldn't believe her audacity. The nerve of her to sue me after what she'd done. That's when I realized I had to fight back, not just to protect my assets but to expose her for who she really was. I started gathering every shred of evidence, her bank records, her texts, emails, even recordings of her calls with James. I wanted to make sure I had enough to blow her lies out of the water if she tried to twist the story. Meanwhile, kept up her act, acting like everything was fine, like I was the one overreacting. She'd throw fits when I questioned her, call me paranoid, accuse me of not trusting her. But I knew her game now. She was trying to manipulate the situation, to spin the story in her favor. She'd even accused me of cheating, which was laughable because I had no reason to do so. My trust was shattered and I was starting to realize how deep her deception ran. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and sadness. I kept asking myself how I missed all of this. Was I blind? Did I really not see the signs? I kept replaying moments, her secretive phone calls, her dismissiveness, her sudden interest in expensive things. I'd always thought she wanted a nice life, but now I saw she was chasing something else entirely. She was chasing excitement, money, and maybe escape. I felt like I'd been used, like a fool who gave her everything and got nothing in return. I couldn't help but wonder what her real motives were. Was she planning this all along? Did she really love me at some point, or was I just a stepping stone for her to get what she wanted? The thought of her with James, laughing, having sex, and building a new life without me made me sick. I was angry that she'd betrayed me, that she'd drain our savings and ruin everything we had. And now, she was trying to take more, claiming I owed her half the property she bought with my money. I decided I wouldn't let her get away with it. I was going to fight her in court, expose her lies, and make her answer for everything. But beneath all that anger, there was a deep sadness, too. I kept asking myself if I could ever trust again, if I could forgive her, or if I should just cut all ties and walk away. I knew I couldn't just let her get away with this, but part of me still hoped I'd wake up from this nightmare. For now, I was just trying to keep my head above water. I'd been betrayed in the worst way possible, and I was determined to get some kind of justice, no matter how painful it was. I knew this wasn't over, was still out there, and I had to prepare for whatever she'd throw at me next. But one thing was clear. My life as I knew it was gone, replaced by a new reality I didn't ask for and didn't want. The question now was, how do I move forward from here? After gathering all my evidence and consulting with the lawyer, I realized I had a serious fight on my hands. Was relentless in her lies and manipulations, and she was already trying to spin her version of events to anyone who would listen. She told her friends I was controlling and jealous, that I'd hit her, which was a complete fabrication. Meanwhile, she continued to deny everything about the affair, even when I had her texts and photos. It was like talking to a wall. She was so good at twisting the truth, I almost started questioning my own judgment. I decided I needed to confront her again, face to face, and get some answers. I wanted her to admit everything, to see her true face. So I set up a meeting. At a neutral place, her favorite coffee shop where I knew she'd show up. I was nervous but determined. When she arrived, she looked smug, like she thought she had the upper hand. She was dressed to impress, makeup perfect, acting like she had nothing to hide. I didn't waste any time. I laid out all the evidence on the table, her texts, the deed, the bank statements. I told her I knew about her affair with James, about the money she drained, about the property in her lover's name. I wanted her to hear me clearly. Her reaction was classic. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started lying again. She said she was sick of my controlling ways, that I never appreciated her, and that she was only trying to find happiness. She claimed she loved me but needed more excitement, and that Richard was just a business contact. She was trying to help. She said she never took that much money out of our account, that it was just a misunderstanding, and that the property was a gift for her mother, not in Richard's name. She even had the nerve to accuse me of cheating on her, saying I was secretly seeing someone else. I was furious. I told her she was full of shit, that I had proof, and that I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this. I told her I was done playing her game, that I knew she'd been lying from the start. Her face twisted into this bitchy sneer, like she was enjoying her little victory. She said she was done with me, that she was going to divorce me and take everything I owned. She accused me of being a terrible husband, of controlling her, and of causing her to cheat. Honestly, hearing her say those things made my stomach turn. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and just plain angry. How could she sit there and lie so effortlessly? How could she pretend she was the victim after everything she'd done? I left that meeting more determined than ever. I knew I had to act fast. If she was trying to spin her story, I needed to be the one to set the record straight, to make sure everyone knew what she was really up to. I started preparing for court, gathering every document, every piece of proof. I also hired a forensic accountant to trace her financial moves, just to make sure there weren't any other surprises waiting to come out. Meanwhile, she began her campaign of defamation. She called friends, family, anyone who would listen, painting me as the jealous, controlling husband who had cheated first. It was disgusting, but I expected nothing less from her. I knew she'd try to turn everyone against me, to make herself look like the victim. That's how she operated: lies, manipulation, pretending to be innocent while secretly scheming behind my back. The emotional toll was intense. I felt like I was losing my mind. Every day was anger, sadness, frustration, hopelessness. I wondered if I had missed the signs, if I'd been blind to her true nature all along. But deep down, I knew I couldn't let her win. I had to fight for what was right. I had to protect myself and my reputation from her lies and schemes. The hardest part was realizing that the woman I married, the woman I loved, was capable of such cold, calculated betrayal. I kept replaying all the moments, her smiling at me, pretending everything was fine while she was secretly planning her escape. It hurt so much to see her as the villain in my story, but I knew I had no choice. I had to stand my ground, fight her in court, and hope that justice would prevail. At this point, I don't know what the future holds. I just know I can't go back to what we had. I can't trust her anymore. And honestly, I don't even want to try. All I want now is to get through this mess, to rebuild myself after being so thoroughly betrayed. But I'll tell you this: no matter how much she lies or manipulates, I have the truth, and I'm not going to let her get away with destroying everything we built. The court process is a nightmare I never imagined I'd be stuck in. This lawyer is good, really good, and she's throwing everything she can at me to make me look bad. She's claiming I was abusive, controlling, and that I cheated first. She even tried to argue that I was negligent with our money, which is laughable because I've always been cautious about finances. Meanwhile, continues her lies, acting like she's the victim, crying fake tears to anyone who will listen. It's exhausting. I've been poring over every piece of evidence I have, preparing my side of the story. That's when I discovered something else: more lies. Had been secretly transferring money out of our joint account into a new account she set up in her name only. I found the transaction records, and it was clear she'd been siphoning off money for months. I also learned she'd been making payments on that property in her lover's name for quite some time, using the drained funds. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer. The thing that really hit me hard was how she kept up her acting innocent, accusing me of cheating, of being paranoid. She'd even gone as far as to say I was unfaithful, which, honestly, was so far from the truth I almost laughed. But it's all part of her game. Gaslighting, manipulation, twisting things around to keep herself safe. That's when I decided I needed to bring in a forensic accountant and a private investigator to get the real story. I wanted hard proof that she'd been lying all along, that her claims of innocence were just more deception. Meanwhile, is still trying to paint herself as the wronged wife. She's hired her own lawyer and they're trying to spin her story, saying she was coerced, that she was pressured into taking that money, that she was a victim of my controlling ways. It's disgusting. Every time I see her in court, I see the same smug look on her face like she's untouchable. But I know better. I know she's lying and I have proof now. One day I caught her in a blatant lie during the hearing. She claimed she had no idea where the money came from, that she was just trying to fix her life. But the forensic accountant showed she'd been making payments on the property for months. I had bank statements, wire transfers, everything. When I presented the evidence, her face froze for a moment, then she tried to dismiss it, saying it was a misunderstanding. But I could see the panic in her eyes. She knew she was caught. The emotional toll is overwhelming. I feel like I've been punched in the gut repeatedly. Every day, I wake up feeling more betrayed, more hurt, more furious. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see her sneaking around, her secret texts, her lies. I trusted her so much, and now I realize I was just a fool. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was a different person entirely, one who could drain our savings, cheat on me, and then try to take half of what she stole. The worst part is knowing she's still out there, probably planning her next move. She's trying to spin her story in court, but I have the evidence to shut her down. I've become obsessed with making sure she doesn't get away with it. I'm pushing to get full custody of our assets to prove that she's the one who's been dishonest from the start. I don't want her to walk away with a dime of what she stole from us. And I can't help but think about what this means for me, for my future. I feel broken, used, and angry. I trusted her with everything, my love, my money, my life, and she threw it all away for some affair and a quick cash grab. I'm angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, for not noticing the signs. But I also realize that I can't change the past. All I can do now is fight for what's right, for my dignity and for my peace of mind. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. The betrayal cuts deep and I know I need to heal one way or another. I keep telling myself that no matter what happens in court, I have to find a way to move on. I can't let her steal my happiness too. I just hope I can get through this without losing myself in the process. The court hearings have become a relentless grind. Every time I think I've presented enough proof, his lawyer comes up with some new tactic to throw me off. She's trying to paint me as a bad guy, controlling, jealous, maybe even violent, trying to twist my character in front of the judge. It's infuriating. I know the truth, and I have all the evidence to back it up, but she's good at spinning lies, and I can see her trying to sway the court's opinion against me. One day, I got a call from my lawyer. She'd filed a motion to freeze assets, including that property she bought in her lover's name. It was a small victory, but I knew this was just the beginning. Was fighting hard, trying to keep her new life afloat, but I was determined not to let her get away with it. I wanted full accountability, full repayment, and to strip her of any false claims she was making to save herself. Meanwhile, I started digging into Richard, her boss, her lover, the guy she's been sneaking around with. I hired my own investigator to find out where he was, what he was doing. Turns out he's a well-connected developer, rich, powerful, and ruthless. His company was involved in some shady deals, and I found out that had been pushing him to help her buy that property to hide her assets. That's when I realized the scope of her deception. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was orchestrating a full-blown financial scheme. The emotional toll is worse than I expected. Every day I wake up feeling sick, angry, betrayed. I keep replaying all the moments I missed, her secretive phone calls, her late nights, her lies. It's like I was living with a stranger all along. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. It's a crushing realization that the woman I trusted, the woman I loved, was capable of this level of deception. How do you rebuild trust after that? Court sessions are grueling. Lawyer keeps trying to discredit me, calling me paranoid and jealous. She's trying to make the case that I'm the one at fault, that I was abusive or unreasonable. But I have the hard evidence, her banking transactions, texts, photos, and now even witness statements from the pie. I keep pushing forward knowing I have truth on my side. I want justice, not just for the money she stole, but for the betrayal of everything we once had. Then came the bombshell, filed a countersuit, claiming I was the one who cheated, that I was abusive, and that I drove her to cheat because I was so controlling. I couldn't believe her audacity. I had never laid a hand on her, never raised my voice, never hit her. Yet she's trying to turn the tables, making herself the victim. That's classic twisting facts, lying through her teeth, trying to manipulate everyone around her. I saw through it immediately, but I knew I'd have to be prepared for her next move. I've been staying up late every night, going through every piece of evidence, planning my next steps. I've also started talking to other victims of betrayal, people who've been through similar things, and it helps to know I'm not alone. Honestly, I feel like I'm fighting a battle I might never fully win, but I refuse to give up. I want her to pay for what she's done, not just financially, but emotionally. She shattered my trust, my sense of security, and my life as I knew it. Now I'm at a crossroads. I've thought about just walking away, starting fresh somewhere else, leaving this entire nightmare behind. But part of me knows I need to see this through to the end, to make sure she doesn't walk away with a single cent of what she stole, and that she's held accountable for her actions. I want her to face the consequences of her betrayal. I want her to realize that you can't lie, cheat, and steal your way to happiness without paying a price. So I keep fighting. Every day is a new challenge, but I remind myself that I deserve better than her lies and manipulation. I deserve peace, honesty, and respect. I've learned a lot from this, about trust, about people, and most of all, about how dangerous it is to ignore the warning signs. Maybe I'll never fully recover from this, but I know one thing. I will come out of this stronger. And I'll make damn sure she doesn't get away with ruining my life without facing the consequences. The final court date came faster than I expected, and honestly, I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but determined to see this through. All the evidence I'd accumulated, all the lies tried to spin, and the truth I knew in my gut, all of it was laid bare. I sat there in the courtroom, watching her smug face trying to maintain her composure, knowing full well she was cornered. Her lawyer's last-minute attempts to sway the judge fell flat when the forensic accountant about her secret transfers, and the witness I brought in confirmed her ongoing affair with James. When the judge finally announced the verdict, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. Was ordered to pay back every cent she stole, the $250, $0 plus interest, and she was also held accountable for the fraudulent property deed. She was. The divorce she so desperately wanted, at least for now, because the court saw through her lies and manipulation. She tried to portray herself as the victim, but the evidence proved she was the perpetrator all along. Her face twisted with rage and frustration as she realized her plans had backfired. In the aftermath, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but the scars remained. I filed for divorce, and the process was messy, filled with bitter exchanges and accusations. But I was done with her lies. I moved out of the house we shared, leaving behind the memories of a life built on her deception. It was hard, really hard, to walk away from everything I thought was real, but I knew I had no choice. Trust had been broken beyond repair. Now I'm rebuilding. I've started therapy to work through the betrayal, and I've been focusing on myself, my health, my career, my future. The financial mess she left behind is being sorted out, and I've learned the importance of being vigilant about who I trust. I don't see her anymore. I avoid any contact, knowing that she's still bitter and probably plotting her next move. Honestly, I don't care. What matters is that I've taken back control of my life. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to trust blindly. I see now that red flags were there all along. Her secretive texts, her sudden interest in expensive things, her dismissiveness when I asked questions. I ignored them because I loved her, because I wanted to believe she was the woman I married. But love isn't enough when someone is willing to lie, cheat, and steal from you. It's a brutal lesson, but an important one. If there's any advice I could give to someone in a similar situation, it's this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small. Keep records, document everything. And if you suspect betrayal, act on it. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect yourself, your assets, your sanity. Because once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. But you can survive it, and you can come out stronger on the other side. I may still have scars, but I'm learning to heal. And I'm finally ready to move forward, free from the shadows of betrayal that once haunted me.